Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast. Remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. You grab that VET S.O.S Lifeline. We are here to help. And today, sitting on the stoop, we're about to get the scoop. This is the continuation of the military effect campaign. It's our turn to serve. And lo and behold, look what we have here. Some of y'all probably heard of this organization. For the ones that you haven't, don't worry, you're going to hear about it today because EJ shared with me it is over 46,000 veteran nonprofits out there. So you might have heard of FourBlock. You might have not, but don't worry. We're going to have a conversation. We're sitting on the stoop. We're going to get the scoop about FourBlock, about EJ, and how his journey to transition got him to where he's at today. But without further ado, let me introduce. I'm going to give y'all a little scoop on EJ, but then we're going to transition to EJ because he's going to fill us in on what I miss. But EJ is a retired. I don't like saying retired, so I'm going to say he's a seasoned U.S. Air Force senior enlisted leader veteran and one of the top advocates for shaping America's transition landscape. With over 21 years of distinguished service in the military intelligence and talent development, EJ now leads program initiative as vice president at FourBlock, where he drives nationwide impact for transition veterans and military spouses. From the battlefield to the boardrooms, from USAA to Emeritus, and now community campus across the country, EJ's leadership is the connective tissue between military excellence and civilian success. Get ready for the insider look into resilience, capital R, resilience. This is what FourBlock is all about, being resilient, to reinvent itself, reinvention, and what it really means to serve beyond the uniform. Ladies and gentlemen, my man, my brother, my Air Force brother and veteran, EJ O'Brien. Hey, EJ, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Oh man, this is so awesome. Thank you for being a part of the military effect campaign. It's our turn to serve, and we're running this campaign all of 2026. And your organization is one of the organizations that raised your hand and said, I want to be a part of this campaign. I want veterans, active military, everybody on this world to know that we are here to support the community. And you might not know about us now, but after today, they're going to know. But I know a little bit about you. I know a little bit about the Air Force side of you. But what's the scoop so the listeners and the viewers know about EJ?
Yeah, I think like many folks, I was a young kid coming straight out of high school, found my way into the military. My grandfather would always introduce himself to me in the evening in a different language when I would see him. And I was like, man, all these places he had been. So it kind of led to me joining up. But, for most of us, the 20 years post 9/11 were a little interesting. And as I decided I was going to pivot from service, just like many of us, there's a lot of uncertainty around that. So, I leveraged a bunch of different programs, right? And it's a family effort. My wife was there with me going through it, my 3 daughters. But of all of the programs that I leveraged, FourBlock was one of the ones that paid the most dividends for me. So I'm so grateful to be able to be here and kind of talk to you guys about how FourBlock works and what we offer. But yeah, I'm just another one of you, right? Like we got to look out for one another. And I wouldn't even actually be here in this conversation as we talk a little bit more into this, right? It really boils down to relationships. And it was a relationship that made me aware of this opportunity to participate in this process. So I'm so grateful for our community and our brotherhood and sisterhood through service, right? So I'm looking forward to this conversation tonight.
Right. We talk about looking forward towards the conversation, but I'm not going to let you escape your military time, especially in the ISR, is it reconnaissance? What's the ISR stands for?
Yeah, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. I actually started as a communications troop. And then, when we go into the service, they're very good about telling us what we're going to do most of the time. So first half of the Air Force career, I was in communications. Second half, they told me I was going to pivot into something else. They did give me a choice between nuclear weapons, emergency operations management, or geospatial intelligence. And I chose geospatial intelligence. And I have to tell you, right, it is an amazing across the service. Like every job is special, but working in ops, probably similar to your experience
Mm.
in security forces. When you're in ops and you're driving mission executions, it's a special place, and I can't tell you how much respect I have for that mission and that community and the people that I had the chance to serve with. But I definitely would not be the person that I am today if it weren't for that experience. So
And
that's a little bit. I mean, go ahead.
no, 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 it's good. Like you talk about that experience. Well, what was one of the defining moments in your career that say, man, this is great, but it's time for me to transition?
So for me, the transition really stemmed from family. So I
Mm,
actually was selected to go into the Space Force, and I was due to pivot out to Peterson. And my grandfather, who was very much like a father figure to me, ended up contracting liver cancer. And my
mm,
wife and I whiteboarded it out with my family, right? Like, do we go to Space Force? Do I go home and try to get as much time as I can with my grandfather before he passes? And at this point, I'd already been in the Air Force for over 20 years. So, you just got to really bank on like, what are we going to do? So I talked to, Chief Toberman
right,
at the time and tried to see what we could work. And we ultimately decided on it was time to pivot because I had to put my family at that point, right?
right,
And my daughter's got an extra year to be around family that is no longer here. But yeah, it was kind of a family medical choice. But I think, right, all of us, and I would argue most veterans are inclined to serve regardless. So, I mean, and we'll talk about the transition elements, but
mm,
doing what I do right now is the closest I've felt to wearing the uniform since I've been out because of that purpose and meaning behind what I get to contribute to on a daily basis.
right. So you was with USAA for a stint. You was with Emeritus for a stint. Big
Yep.
time portfolios, and then you came over to FourBlock. So how
Yeah.
has FourBlock changed the landscape for veteran career readiness? Because like you said, you still wanted to give back, so like wow, you found this opportunity with FourBlock, and he's like, you know what, you probably had a conversation with the missus, and she's like,
Well,
babe, if that's what you want to do, let's move,
exactly.
let's go for it.
That's ex-
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened. And I will tell you, right? So as I went through transition as a veteran getting out of the Air Force, I leveraged FourBlock as a part of my transition journey. So that was
Mm,
my first exposure to it. It was during COVID. I had a chance to attend the Tampa cohort virtually from San Antonio. And I was just taken aback because, week over week, you get to meet different host employers. It's about understanding the industry bases, making connections and relationships. And over that transition point, I started to realize, hey, what I want to do is this. And, silly thing is,
mm,
you're going to talk to a lot of transitioning folks. Almost 90% of veterans I talk to, so they want to do program project management. There is a life beyond program and project management, but that's what I really wanted to do because to me, it tied and correlated the most to mission execution, right? You look at what is our weight
mm,
of effort? What are our resources? How are we going to apply these? What is the problem we're addressing? Hot washes, debriefs, retrospectives. It's all very similar to me. So I really love the idea of program project management. Um, Getting to meet those different companies and organizations, when I met the people at USAA going through this process, I was like, man, these are my people. This is my culture. It was an organization built around service. And and it was through those exposures that I got to say, okay, now I can correlate my personal values, my desires with a corporate role potentially, right? And I
mm,
just kept that conversation going, right? And those relationships stemmed into me ultimately getting a hiring our hero skill bridge there, which was phenomenal. And then, at the time they didn't have headcount, so I had to still interview for a position, but I ultimately got a role there. So, and it was the same kind of thing as I pivoted to another organization after that. It was personal relationships and connections. Somebody I worked with at USAA put in a referral to me for the like second in command for a consulting firm that got me the role at Emeritus. So it's just FourBlock showed me, right, how to really make the most of nurturing those relationships to drive positive outcomes for my
mm.
transition. And honestly, like I think we were saying before this call, transition never stops. So you have to make
Right.
sure that you're building those relationships and you're putting those credits back into the bank just as much as you're asking for them out because it can't be transactional. Like I'll take the shirt off my back to help people. I mean, if they were to
Right.
ask me right now, because it's how you got to be, right? I mean,
Right.
and that's Four Block helped me from that perspective, 100%.
So you see, FourBlock helped you. So he's like, man, I want to pay it forward. So then now, so you're a FourBlock alumni. You know
Yeah.
that engagement. How and why is it so critical for that transition? For transition programs, right? Because it's so many different transition programs out there. But you know, we talk about FourBlock, like the pillars of FourBlock. Like, what does that engagement look like?
So I'll give you a quick overview, right? So the
Okay.
core values for me are one of the things that are the most important about FourBlock, right? And our core values are act with humility, build trust, and pursue excellence. And I know it's
Mm,
probably okay, but when I think about transitioning out of the service, of all the veterans I interact with, humility is probably the number one most important thing that you're going to bring with you. And you have to
mm,
show up with humility, right? The second piece is our founder and CEO, Mike Abrams, right? When he came back from Afghanistan back in '08, he
mm.
was thinking through what he wanted to do in his transition. He came across an Iwo Jima veteran that was a survivor, right? And that veteran told a story about his uncle coming in and kicking him one day and saying, listen, I talked to some folks. Today's the day you're going to work. And that Iwo Jima survivor told Mike, that job saved my life, right? So Mike, in true Marine fashion, he's like, this is my trajectory and this is what I'm going to do. So he got with Columbia University. He put together all of this stuff and he started a cohort in 2010 of 5 people. And today
Wow.
we support, over 1,200 people a year, which still sounds small in the big scheme of 200,000 transitioning service members a year, but our program is very high touch. So I say all
Mm,
of that just to say that that's what made FourBlock experience different for me. And then when I was at USAA, there was a lady by the name of Kay Schwartz, who was a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel personnel officer, and she was in charge of HR for the team in Tampa. And as I was coming in, she became a mentor and a friend, and she was retiring. And she gave me the opportunity to lead the corporate hosting for Tampa as we brought in FourBlock and other veteran organizations to
wow.
the company here. And it was phenomenal, right? Because what I started to realize, secretly in the back of my mind, I loved what I was doing at USA. But every
Mm,
time I was helping veterans bring them through or being a coach for FourBlock after I went through, or as an instructor, I realized like, man,
right.
I feel so much more energized when I'm doing these things. So it really became a passion
Mm,
project. And that's, I think, what makes FourBlock so special too, right? One of the stats that I always talk to when we do our information sessions is over 60% of our alumni come back to help as coaches and instructors. And to me, that's a testament to the fact that people felt like they got something of value from the program.
right. Wow. What are some of the most common barriers that you see individuals coming through the program and they looking for the transition into the job market? So what are some of the things you see that they face the job market that's very challenging for them?
So the cool thing about FourBlock is we really help 3 particular sets of veterans, and this is our Veterans Career
Mhm.
Readiness program. So we also have a military spouse program, but I'm
Okay.
primarily talking about Veterans Career Readiness program. So we help transitioning service members, student veterans that might be coming out of a degree seeking academic or credentialing type program, and career pivoting
Okay.
veterans, right? Because
Mm,
as we're talking, many veterans came out of the military and the transition process looked totally different. So some of them are now coming through FourBlock to kind of get the leg up that they wish they would have got when they came through. But um, by default, I'll say the top 3 things I see. Number one is going to be the inability to truly translate their value proposition to those
mm,
organizations based on their military experience, just because you're speaking 2 different languages at that point, right?
right.
The second is um, understanding how to make those connections and relationships in a way that is non-transactional, because a lot of times you feel like I just got to ask for something. Well, how do you approach these conversations where you're not necessarily asking for something, but you're building a genuine and authentic connection to where, we're going to have dialogue and we're going to become acquaintances and actually have some skin in the game before I
Right.
ask you to potentially be my sponsor into the organization. And I would say the third is really taking the time to consider what makes you tick and kind of do that exploration to understand where your personal and professional values align to what you might do in the next chapter. Because when we leave the military, and this is just me speaking for EJ,
Mm,
the uniform was kind of my identity. Like I loved being a senior NCO. I loved going to work. I loved interacting with my airmen. I love seeing folks get promoted, the BTZ, all this stuff, right? Like it was when you see other people succeed, like, so I made that a cornerstone as I was out for a little bit longer. Like, what do I really want in my next chapter? It's like, I want to help people. Well, the intent of FourBlock being 10 weeks long is that you have time to do that mental, exercise of
Mm,
reflection, where you see yourself, personal, professional values, what are your non-negotiables, and really think through what success means, right? And sometimes, if you're getting out after 4 years, 10 years, or 20 years as a retiree, or depending on what you might get from a VA standpoint, there's different varying degrees of discernment that you're going to have in making your next career choice, right? Because if you need to have a job today, you're going to have to get the job you need versus the job you want.
right.
But we help people through that process, right? Like, we have those conversations and we help you come up with a strategic transition plan that really kind of is a very individualized, and it's personal. So everybody that comes through will have a coach. Everybody that comes through will have instructor facilitation. But the big thing is the access to those corporate hosts. And when we interact
Mm,
with our employer hosts, everybody that I talk to on a daily basis across these different companies, they care about helping veterans. They're either military affiliated, they're military, have a military family member, or they're just a civilian ally that really cares about helping folks out. And the cool thing about getting to go to those host employers week over week is you have a chance to have an interaction in a safe space where maybe less about you even walking away with an opportunity. You might have just changed a perceived bias that somebody might have had about veterans. So now you're leaving it better for the entirety of our veteran community, because
mm.
somebody doesn't think, I've got these perceived stereotypes, but you just squash three of them because you're really smart. You're an enlisted person. I thought all enlisted people, just handed out basketball. Like,
Right.
right, you break down all these perceived stereotypes. So it's just, the whole thing about it is beneficial from both sides. So, put my project manager hat on. I think having the opportunity to work with these partner host employers, getting to bring the service members through as a part of this program, it's a win-win for all parties. So we're just very grateful to be able to do that and help them find that meaningful and purposeful career.
Oh, that's so awesome. So one of the things that I heard you say that I took away from it, what you just shared, is mentorship is huge with FourBlock.
Yep.
And the success of FourBlock and the students that go through that program, you said companies reach out to you to be a part of your ecosystem to help veterans in that transition space. So what role does mentorship play in that facet of making the student come when they come through for their 10 weeks to be successful once they complete the program?
So mentorship is clutch. And I would, we
Mm,
talked a little bit about, if you're in San Antonio and you want to help out, or even if you wanted to help out with the virtual core, I would love to have you as a career readiness coach, right? So this is a volunteer position we have in our FourBlock ecosystem of kind of positions. We have our career readiness instructors who facilitate the classes week over week, work with those partner employers. But then we have our career readiness coaches that are volunteers. Most of those are alumni that come back typically after having 12 months in, but it's kind of just having somebody to help pull you along. Like, hey, I've
mm,
gone down this path. And then at the start of that relationship, those coaches kind of lay it out. Like, what do you need? Like, maybe you come in, you don't think you need a coach, but let's set expectations. Let's still have a check in. And they're really there to kind of be that navigator and show people, like, if you're going to ask and you're
mm,
willing to listen, we'll help you navigate this journey. The other bit is our alumni network. So, um, as you look at the FourBlock kind of mindset, we look at coaches, which are assigned. We look at mentors,
mm,
which we can grow into something like that. And then the gold standard that we try to get folks to are sponsors, right? So we want you to build enough
mm.
rapport and relationship with individuals that they're willing to put their reputation on the line to potentially
Right.
sponsor you under their organization. And that's kind of the secret sauce of the program, is the access, the coaches you get along the way. And then, as you, like we were talking about, before we jumped on here, we were talking about, as you put more effort into it, people will come and try to lift you up because they can see that you're trying.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's all about, right? When you come in there and you put your best foot forward and everybody's rowing together, people are going to put the hand out to pull you up because they can see that you're somebody that they want to sit next to 40 hours a week in their cubicle farm. So
Right. And that's huge. So FourBlock's been around for a while. Now, in today's age, we see the acceleration of AI, right? That's the new hot topic in today's
Yep.
environment. So I know, by just speaking with you, and it's crazy how when I just I say, man, that's crazy that we haven't met ever before until prior to this conversation, but it
Yeah.
felt like we knew each other for years.
Yep.
And that just lets me believe that you know how to do this. The pulse of what's going on, the pulse of veterans, of what's needed out there in the workforce, the pulse as what keep, right? Because that when you check the pulse, that comes from the heartbeat. What keeps
Right.
somebody moving? So what's the scoop on that, EJ? Because I know you got the pulse on the industry out there, because you wouldn't be in the position you're at right now if you didn't have that pulse.
So you're asking about AI?
No, I'm asking about the pulse of the today's workforce. I just use AI as an example
Oh,
because
gotcha,
that's the
gotcha.
new hotness out here,
No, 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 no,
in the
definitely.
street.
I would tell you, right, there's a ton of different industries. So every industry is going to have its own kind of beat.
Right.
We do try to, like, we have these industry clusters. We have some very smart people. One of the executives above me, Miss Karen Childress Wiley, she's put together this amazing construct of how we support specific industry clusters. And within those industry clusters, right, we kind of look across the defense industrial base. But our hope, right, is as we're trying to align opportunities for veterans through these interactions, we're interacting with industry bases that have a need, right? So we're not putting you in front of industries that are going to downsize or potentially to pivot. And if you are having conversations with these industries, are you having conversations in a way that they're going to help you, right? So as a veteran, you could come to us up to 18 months prior to your separation. So if you're trying
Mm,
to build a pathway, we'll help you have those conversations. So, hey, if I'm going to go into financial services, like you're asking about the pulse, right? Anti-money laundering is a big thing right now because of AI. So maybe I want to get into this space. I'm an Intel analyst, but I don't have the appropriate credentials or certifications. We want to make sure that you're having access to those conversations so you can get what you need to even be competitive when the time comes. But the pulse, the pulse at large is really much everybody needs good talent.
right.
That's really what it boils down to. And in order to buy down that risk, right, because every company has a very fixed process that they're comfortable with finding talent. And in the civilian sector, right, you've got university tracks, you've got internships, apprentices. But veterans, we're kind of like a wild card. A lot of times we're coming through, we're a little bit older. They don't really understand,
Right.
right, like, what does NCO Academy mean? What does I don't know one of the Army ones. If I go through an ILE, like an intermediate leadership education program or something like that, they don't understand those elements, right? So having the ability to interact and having the understanding of how to articulate those experiences helps you eventually buy down that risk on being kind of more of an uncertain bet. And it helps you minimize their worry about, am I getting somebody from a less traditional track? And then you buy down that risk, and then you sell your value proposition, and then you're that much better off. So that was a very long-winded response, but hopefully I kind of got to your
No, that
answer.
that was great. That was great, because my other follow up to that is, I know you've been in the space for such a long time. You experience that transition, and what advice would you give somebody, a veteran, somebody that's about to transition out back into the private sector, that feels stuck and unsure about their next chapter, like the going, like we talked about earlier, right? Going into that unknown, to the uncharted waters. What advice would you share and give with them? What's the
So
scoop on that?
the first thing I would do is I would say, look all the way back to basic training. When you were thinking about going through that experience and how frightened you were that you weren't going to get through it because it's scary, right? But at the time, I don't know what it is today, but my uncle told me, he's like, EJ, 35,000 people a year go through Air Force basic training. You're going to have
Mm.
no problems. And when you think about, we have 200,000 people transitioning out of the military a year, they figure it out, right? Now you have a choice to
Mm.
make in this pivot. Leverage the resources that are out there, right? There are so many amazing resources, and leverage the
Yeah.
free ones, because nobody should be charging you for some of this stuff, right? So FourBlock, hiring our heroes, vet jobs, hiring heroes USA. Like, there are so many great organizations that are out there.
Mhm.
Maximize all of them. Depending on your community, you might have access to programs like the Honor Foundation or some of these other ones. But that's what I did. When
Mhm.
I used 15 different organizations, American Corporate Partnership, all of them, some that aren't even around
Yeah.
anymore today. But you got to make the most of these resources. it can be debilitating because there are so many resources, right? You mentioned 46,000 different
Yeah.
nonprofits that are in the US. Those are veterans facing more than just transition. But yeah, there's a lot of noise out there, right? Start
Mm.
with, trusted partners and work your way down, because as you build your network and you start to talk to others that have traversed this pathway, depending specifically on where you want to go, we're going to make sure that you get directed to the appropriate thing. So just, I would say, don't analyze and paralyze yourself on the uncertainty, right? Because there's a lot of anxiety associated to getting out, because depending on your situation, your family's worried about it. You've always had a square paycheck. You know what you're doing. You might be pivoting completely. Like when I got out, I didn't want to do Into. So you might be pivoting completely. So, I mean, your situation, you were telling me
Yeah.
before we came on, right? Security forces to now something completely different. But the thing about programs like FourBlock is we want to make sure that no matter what you do in the next chapter, you're going to do something that matters to you and you still feel that sense of purpose. So we want you to be able to have exposure to as many different spaces of industry and
Mm.
organizations. Make sure you find the right fit.
And finding the right fit is key, and that's where career readiness come into play. Beyond a resume, like, oh, I have my resume, I'm gonna send it out, but that career readiness, because that's one of the pillars at FourBlock, right? We want you to be career ready, because the resume, we talked about it before, right? Sometimes you might not cannot translate what you did in the military or what's on the resume. Like, no, how are you gonna say, hey, this is what I did in the military, this is how it relates to what I'm applying for? Like that parallel communication.
Yeah. So your story that you told me before we jumped on this call is a perfect story. And my story, to me, it also lends itself to this. And it's never going to always be this way, but and this is EJ's opinion. This is not the opinion of FourBlock, right? So my belief is that at the end of the day, you want the resume to be a formality, right? Who did you talk to along the way of submitting that resume? They should already know that they want you to be on their team, right? So I would ask, aside from looking at your resume, who is ready to advocate on behalf of this resume when you submit it? Because that's really what's necessary,
Mm.
right? AI is an unfortunate reality of our day-to-day life, which I would argue AI makes human to human connection that much more important. So, um, yeah, I mean, that well, hopefully I answered your question. I mean,
No, you did, because so I like to always go and reach out to people and like, hey, have you heard about FourBlock? Oh yeah, I heard about FourBlock. Or give me some stuff that you had conversation with people that utilize FourBlock. Or hey, do you know EJ? Yeah, I know EJ. It's like, give me some stuff that EJ say. So some of the stuff I picked up was FourBlock is not a program, it's a movement. And what I took from that, because I started to like do the research, right? Like, man, what is FourBlock, right? I'm thinking I'm a analytical person. I kind of see, because I have to remember things certain ways. Like I tell you, my my stuff is rewired. So when I think of FourBlock, I think of pillars, right? Like if you're down in Florida, right? If you're close to the shoreline, you want to have those 4 blocks of those pillars up, because sometimes
yeah,
the tide. Right? You see what I'm saying? So that's how
yeah,
I see FourBlock, is to give you that structure, those pillars, just in case if the tide rise, you're still in a dry, safe location where you could kind of move and navigate.
yeah. So, I mean, FourBlock to me at the undertone, right, is about career readiness. But I think the number one thing that I love the most about being a part of this program is the community that is associated with it, right?
Mm.
So over 7,000 alumni have gone through this program since Mike stood it up back in 2010. Access to over 1,300 different companies through those relationships and connections. But it's kind of like, just like being a veteran, there has not been one FourBlock alum that I've not hit up or spoken to, even when I was not working at FourBlock, that wasn't willing to
Mm.
help me out because we had a shared experience, right? And um, I think the other thing that makes that so powerful, right, is even as we relocate, right, FourBlock's nationwide. So I always know that if I were to pivot, like, hey, if I want to come back over there and live in Cibolo, I have a group of people that know where I'm coming from. They know the experience that I've had through this program and process, and they're going to take care of me when I come to San Antonio, or they're going to take care of me when I go to DC. And that's the other nice thing about it. And the thing that I love the most about the culture that Mike has kind of built into this organization is that it's not one and done. You're always welcome to come back if need to, right? So I think what Mike realizes is that this is more of it's really a community, but it's almost like a family.
Mm. Almost like a family. I'm going to ask you a scoop on this next quote I located. Your
Yeah.
military story is the strongest cover letter you got.
Yep. I mean,
What's your take on that?
your military story is the strongest cover letter you got. So I mean, I think at the end of the day, right? Sometimes when people ask you what you did while you're in the military, it seems unreal. They can't envision an 18-year-old is out there managing or overseeing or securing a multi-million dollar, if not billion-dollar asset.
Mhm,
Right. So how we help you articulate your value proposition
mhm,
by sharing your military narrative really does make you special because so many of your civilian counterparts will never have had the weight of responsibility, the scope of responsibility, or had to support things that you have supported in serving in the military. Um, and the other thing is, you've probably seen since you've been out, um, we have a lot of training. We have
mhm,
airmen. I'm going to use the Air Force just because it's my bit, but we have junior enlisted leadership development training, mid tier non commissioned officer leadership development training. Most private sector organizations do not have hard and fast leadership development type like programs. So if people start to realize and understand what we bring to the table, I think that's what makes that narrative so special and powerful.
mhm. So special and powerful. I know when I was transitioned out, I got that piece of paper, that member copy for that DD 214.
214,
One of
yeah.
the things I found here, your DD 214 isn't a finish line, it's a runway.
Yeah.
What's
Did
the
you do your
scoop on that?
VET?
Yes, I sure did.
So I mean, you can't. What got you here isn't going to get you there. But
Right.
what I would argue, right? We talked a little bit about acting with humility. The pathway that we cut through to get through our service window, even if you do 4 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, right? That's not what's going to make you successful in civilian life. It's going to help you be successful in
Mm,
civilian life. But I would argue that DD 214 allows you to look back and say, it allows you to anchor to the fact that, listen, I know how to be successful. I know how to make it. And I've got
mm,
the resiliency and the adaptability to find my pathway to success. And then you go
mm.
through programs like ours or others, right? And that really helps you hone in on how you're going to be successful in that next chapter, leveraging those skills that got you to that 214.
Yes. What about this saying? We don't just bridge the gap, we eliminate the gap. What's the scoop on that?
Yeah, right. The gap is how, like, what deficits do you have to be successful in that role? We help you build that, right? That strategic transition plan, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Maybe you pick something that you're already well suited to do, but maybe you want to completely change it up. I want to be an artist. Well, maybe you got to take some art classes. What kind of artist do you want to be? Maybe you want to go from being a financial services officer to a plumber. Like, we're going to help you bridge that gap and get the resources necessary to find success in that next place. So, and the way that we do that, right? Our program is all about the relationships, not just with our host employer partners, but also with other nonprofit organizations, universities, academic institutions, right? How can we bridge the delta on getting you to the resources that will make you successful? So
Mm.
hopefully that's what you were thinking. But I mean,
No, yeah.
that's my interpretation. I mean, the relationships get you wherever you need to be, right? And the more that you're willing to put the effort towards it, kind of like we talked about at the beginning, people are going to be more willing to get behind you if they can
Mhm,
see you putting the effort in. And that's really, to me, FourBlock gives you the exposure.
yeah. And FourBlock helps with finding purpose again. One of the
Correct.
sayings I came across is purpose is the new paycheck.
Hey, you know, one of the folks, I'm not going to say her name, she works with the organization and she's an amazing lady. I'll give it away. She's up in our Seattle space. Having the opportunity to meet somebody like her, right? She was
Mhm.
doing very well. She was very successful in her private sector career working in corporate America. And she stepped away from that to support not just FourBlock, but a multitude of different nonprofits in that space. Um, because really, I think she has so much purpose through what she does because of things that happened to her and her family, right? Like, I think the value of her service and giving back to the community outweighs what might have come monetarily. And I can tell you, right, like, obviously you've got to be a realist here. You got to put food on the table for your family. You're going to have to get the job you need. But if you have the ability to do something that you truly want and it's going to meet that need, 100%, we want you to be able to have that degree of purpose. And that's, like I told you, like coming in here, like FourBlock for me, man, is like anything. Like I just love doing this sort of stuff. It doesn't matter if I'm helping out, the Wounded Warrior Project, FourBlock, or one of these other
Right.
organizations. Um, Giving back and helping is what fills my cup. So as you're going through this 10-week journey, even beyond, you have to find what helps you feel like you're actually doing something that matters. I mean, your story to me, man, like unpaid intern, now you're working away, but you're still helping people through that process. And I think to me, it sounded like, you were rooted in service as well. But everybody looks for different things. Maybe success for you is, I want to make all the money in the world. And there's potential opportunities for that, but it all aligns to your values. And we help you kind of navigate that. Everyone's personal and professional values are different, but we'll help you come up with a tailored plan for that individually.
And one of the things I like about your energy and vibe, EJ, is leadership isn't about listening first, especially in transition. Because, as being a senior NCO leader, I'm sure that you listen to what your younger subordinate, younger troops, the people that you came across, what their need, like what do you need to be successful, and not
Yeah.
just throw something at them or not just throw an opportunity at them. Like, no, what are you good at? What do you have a passion for? What's your purpose? Because you want to make sure they are so successful in their transition. Guess what? They're gonna come back and they're gonna be a coach. They're gonna come back and teach a program. They're gonna come back and pull somebody else along that's stuck. So I
I
just want to say thank you, but I would definitely like to get your take on that. Leadership is about listening first,
yeah.
especially in transition.
So my greatest mentors when I was in uniform, and I still try to live by this, were my subordinates, because those were the folks that had a pulse on what was reality, like what was happening as we were executing. And I would tell you, right, as we go through the transition space, that is even more important because I'm not going to go sit down at that company. I'm not going to do
Right.
that role. I'm not going to talk to your significant other or spouse about how happy or unhappy you are in that position. I just want to make sure that you're finding something that matters to the point to where you can go home and be positive, right? Because all these other compounding pressures can occur when you find yourself in a situation to where your personal and professional values are disaligned. So we really want to do our best of helping individuals, at an individual level, like you are coaches and our instructors and whatnot, really find what works best for them. So yeah, you have to listen in order to do that. And I think the other cool thing about FourBlock is it's not about what roles or position somebody else needs to fill. It's about what do you want? We're just giving you exposure to those spaces. I mean, there's no agreement or things like that, right? It's really about you as the individual. And listening is centered to that.
And you as an individual in your next mission. Other thing I found was the next mission is personal and it's worth fighting for.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
The story I shared with you when I came back and I was told by my leadership, you was there for your country, now let us be there for you.
Yeah.
That's what I take away from the next mission is personal and it's worth fighting for. Even when I didn't want to fight for myself, they said it's worth fighting for. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you. That's why I'm part of the VET S.O.S podcast network. That's why I do the things I do because it's worth fighting for. Just like what you're doing because it's worth fighting for. For somebody that's going to come across this podcast, for somebody that's going to listen and is at the end of their rope because they don't know which way to go. They don't know which way is up. They're stuck in that transition. Just remember what I'm saying. Hear my voice. It is worth fighting for. That's what I think about it.
No, man. Listen, 100%, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm trying to put it together, but this isn't going to be something that is permanent. You're going to pivot so many times over as you make your way out of uniform. And the reality of, like you had mentioned, our military services. What did you say? The military service is your most important asset or something like that,
Yeah.
right? I would argue, and this is E.J. O'Brien's opinion, I'm going to caveat that. I would argue, right, there are not many occupations, first responders, some others, right, but like the military, to where when you sign up and you dedicate your service or your day-to-day service, you are dedicating all of yourself, wholly and completely. You're willing to put it all on the line, right? And when we walk away with our value structure as service members, regardless of 4 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, right? You have a degree of loyalty, you have a sense of integrity, and you have a sense of what service means. That's not common always in private sector. So I think the other part is as you make that pivot, having organizations like FourBlock or others, right? Or just having friends that you're going to meet and hear, like yourself, right? We got to stick together, man, because at the end of the day, people aren't going to put as much effort into their, like for us, is it a job? It's a job. But what is a job to a service member, right? That is your existence at some points, right? I mean, when I heard your story, you gave everything, right? And you gave all of your service, yourself to service, and now let us help you, right? It's the same kind of thing on this side of it. We have to still help each other because loyalty in those elements, this is part of your transition. I'm kind of getting all over the place right now, but loyalty in those elements,
this is good.
It's not present state, right? Like loyalty is tied to a bottom line in private sector most of the time, right? Depending on the size and scope of the organization. Are we moving the needle on profits loss? Whereas, if we can, we try our best to hold on and maintain our unit integrity. And I think they do try to do the same thing, but nobody's going to have your back like our brothers and sisters. So we got to look out for one another. And as you go through this process, just know that you're not going it alone. I know that there are organizations like ours where we're going to have that community and we're going to be there for you, regardless of where you're at and how many times you're in the process of transitioning. Because I'll tell you, I've been out for a short while, almost 5 years now, and I'm on my third job. I was at my first job for almost 3 years, and it was a great organization, but some things just led to me pivoting. But the one thing that I do know, we talked about this beforehand, is change is constant and transition is never going to stop once you get out. So find people, find friends, and find organizations that will allow you to be like genuinely a part of that community, right? I mean, I love hanging out, like the folks in Tampa. I grew up here in Tampa. I came back. I barely hang out with my friends I went to high school with that are still here. But I'm going to go hang out with the guy that's a FourBlock career readiness coach because he's a cool dude and he's my buddy, like Josh. And you got to find people that are part of your tribe. And that's what this is all about. Regardless if it's FourBlock, use somebody, right? Because it gets lonely out there and there's not a lot of people built like us. And the mindsets, the values, the way that we operate, the way that we think, right? Like we're not really transactional. Like if we say we're going to do something, right, damn, we're going to do it, right? Like, so that's a really long-winded, all over the place answer.
No, that's good because somebody, like I said, somebody's going to come across this and just at the end and trying to figure it out. And my whole thing is like, you matter,
Exactly.
Finally is what's next for you, EJ? What's next for the FourBlock mission? And since we just started out in 2026, I'm sure y'all have the vision and goal for this year. Like what's looking forward for FourBlock for you and FourBlock?
So I am so excited, man. Like I'm a big believer in willing things into existence. Like we have to will the future that we want
Yeah.
into existence. I can't tell you how excited I am for 2026. Like I think, I hope I'm right, but I got a feeling that this is going to be a amazing year and that we're going to be able to expand the amount of impact that we're able to generate on behalf of our brothers and sisters and their families, as we
That's
move this
awesome.
mission forward. So yeah, I mean, and we talked about it, leave it better than you found it. If every cohort that goes by, if we can just leave it a little bit better and refine it, open the aperture, get exposure to more folks, allow people to experience this a little bit more, it's just going to get better and better. And I can't tell you how excited I am for 2026, man. It's going to be big.
Look, I'm so excited. Cause I wanna stay on here forever. But what about I know people like, yo, Kings, ask them how can we get in contact with
Yeah,
FourBlock? Like how can we sign
exactly.
up for a class? Cause I know that's what they ask, cause that's what I would be asking myself. Like,
So,
all right,
no,
my guy, like I want to be a part of the FourBlock next cohort. How do I get a part of that
I
action?
want all of you to go through FourBlock. I want you all to have the same experience that I had and that I know thousands of other military service members have had. So fourblock.org, fourblock.org/apply. Check it out. We actually have 2 cohorts a year. And we have our military spouse program runs 3 cohorts a year. It's getting ready to kick off at the end of January for the military spouse side. Our Veterans Career Readiness program is getting ready to kick off the last week of February. It's going to run through the first week of May. That's nationwide. We have over 20 cohort locations. One of the exciting things, right, about 2026, for the first time ever, we're going to have an in-person cohort on Joint Base Lewis McChord up in Washington
Oh,
State.
nice.
So that's huge, right? All of these steps in the right directions. And the reality of the matter, man, is like we go farther together. So there are big
Mhm.
things happening on the horizon, right? With some of these other major nonprofit spaces. I'm just so grateful to be a part of this mission, and having the opportunity to support folks day in and day out now as my full-time gig is like the best thing in the world. I told my boss when I was resigning from my last job, I said, have you ever had an opportunity to do something that was like a passion hobby for you, but you get to do it and get
Mm.
paid for it full time? And she was like, I've never had that experience. So you can't understand why I'm doing what I'm
Right.
doing. She's like, I can't. She's like, I don't understand. But yeah, man. So please come out. Please be a part of our community. Fourblock.org/apply. We have information sessions running out. And then depending on where you're at, we do monthly FourBlock and Friends events. If you're in San Antonio, there are going to be some stuff going out about that here in the coming
Nice.
months. If you're in Tampa, we're going to do it the 29th of January this month. But those things are happening all across the board. We have a FourBlock events hub. And I don't know if I can share some stuff with you to put out on your page too, but more
Yeah.
than happy.
Why not?
Yeah, I'll send you the events hub. You guys can
Okay.
get out there. We got industry and career pathway events. You talked about having the pulse on the industry. We've got some career or industry pathway events happening next month. And that's where we bring in 2 executives. They talk through like what's happening in that industry space, panel
Mm.
discussion, breakout afterwards. You got up to 15 different companies in that industry space. And it's just how anybody can come that's a veteran or a military spouse, go in there and you can just round robin, meet people from those companies, talk to them about what they're looking for and how you can set yourself up to be on a path for success. And that's aside from our flagship career readiness program. So much
Oh,
goodness, so much
wow.
cool things that we got going on. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come on here and talk about FourBlock a little bit. So
Yeah, this
hopefully,
is great. And this is part of the military effect campaign. So I know for the ones who probably just coming on, like, what they talk about. So the military effect campaign is running all year. And EJ FourBlock is part of the organization and company say they want to be a part of this information share.
yep.
And the book, if you want to get the book, it's The Military Effect by Sky. Just go on Amazon, just type in The Military Effect. It's a series. You can support it that way. You can support the campaign by reaching out to FourBlock and all that. We're gonna have stuff coming out. Cause I raised my hand. I said, look, I want to be the one to interview people about the Military Effect campaign because for me, it's about paying this forward, right? It's our time, it's our turn to serve. I was like, man, yeah, that's my purpose. It's my turn to serve. It's EJ's turn to serve. Is we just have that servant feelings, feel like we have to bring it forward. And that's how I think. Like EJ said, hey, this is Kings saying Kings from me is very important to pay it forward. Cause I tell people I can't pay nothing back. Cause the pay something back is in the past. What I could do is pay it forward. And this is part of the pay it forward journey.
So
So
so many others.
remember, So many others. This
I've
is
poured into us. We got
yes, right, poured into us. And EJ shared, I did not know, over 46,000 in the continental U.S. veteran organizations that's out there.
nonprofits, yeah.
Nonprofits.
Yeah.
So definitely do not drown in the sea of transition. Grab that VET S.O.S. Lifeline. We're here to help. FourBlock is here to help. EJ is here to help. Everybody that you're going to see come across the Military Effect campaign, they are here to help. Remember to like, subscribe, share, pass it on to somebody else. If you just pass it, just forward this on to somebody else so that you can see all the greatness that's going on, because this is just the beginning. Like EJ said, 2026 is like Buzz Lightyear said, right? To infinity and beyond.
Yeah. Gonna be good.
So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, EJ. Thank you, FourBlock, and thank you for the Military Effect campaign. Until next time, everybody, take care. Peace.